we tend to think that we need to solve a problem for somebody else. If they're talking to us, we feel like we should give them an answer. Sometimes people don't need an answer. Sometimes the best thing you can do is to let them go.
You're listening to Nonprofits Today, the podcast that showcases the incredible impact nonprofits have in our ever-changing world. The podcast that gets the pulse on today's economic, social, political, and humanitarian climate straight from frontline leaders, innovative changemakers, and courageous risk takers in our communities and around the globe. And now, without further ado, here's your host, Sarah Box.
Welcome back to the Nonprofits Today podcast. So this week we are joined by Deb Porter, a communications expert and the founder of Hold, Hearing Out Life's Drama, a unique service where professional listening is not just a skill, but a mission. With a master's in care and counseling and deep experience supporting people through caregiving, crises, and conflict, Deb has built a practice that empowers others by teaching one of the most overlooked leadership skills, how to listen. Her work supports individuals and businesses by strengthening listening skills, which then improve communication and create deeper human connections. She is a pro at creating clarity and calm amid chaos, and she has some real gems to share about improving listening and how that can improve every area of life, from leadership and parenting to marriage and the workplace. And I am going to ask her about her special party trick. So with that, let's formally welcome Deb Porter to the podcast. Good morning, Deb.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's good we finally got to connect after technical issues before. So I'm happy, a new day, actually a better day for this conversation. So you built your business on listening.
I did.
Yeah, that's a big, I think about that as a foundational premise for a business, and how powerful that is, but also how enigmatic that might seem to some who are in business. So could you share how powerful listening, when done well, can transform leadership and relationships?
Most people, when I start talking about relationships being the foundation of business, they nod. They go, yeah, of course, relationships are of course important. And when I say, and communication is the the cement we're going to build on, they nod. And yeah, of course, we're going to really want to focus on that communication. And then when we back it up a step further and talk about the bedrock being active listening, then the light bulb starts to come on for people. They're like, I get it now. I get it. But you kind of have to trace it back for people, because otherwise they just think, oh, listening, I know how to listen. Yeah.
Well, listening as opposed to hearing.
Yes.
So that was one of the questions I wanted to ask, is if you could describe for us, because sometimes when I think I'm listening, I'm hearing, but I am actually not listening well, right? If you ask me to repeat what you said, I go, here's the gist of it, right? Because I wasn't really listening. So can you kind of tell us what good listening or solid listening looks like, and how we might know if we're in that exchange?
So what active listening really is, let's define it for our listeners so they really understand it, because I feel like that's what you're getting at. So yeah. Active listening is the art of combining the words and the feelings. So it's not just enough to get the words. We also have to understand the emotions behind it. And if you just do one and not the other, you're going to miss every time. You got to do both.
So give me an example of that, Deb, would you?
Sure. Your listeners are primarily not-for-profits. Yeah, they're working there. So let's say, for example, that someone is at a board meeting and they're they've got a group of people around them, and they're attempting to decide what they're going to make their next financial campaign about. This seems like it would be relatable to your audience, I think.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, one person has an idea and they present it, but other people in the room are not buying in at all, but they don't understand that the idea is presented with the intent behind, the emotion behind it is, I want to build something more amazing than we've done. I want to go outside the box. And so that's not being held by the room. And so now we've got tension. Yeah. Relatable?
It's very relatable. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
with
Okay. So then how do we take a step back and have create calm in the room so that everybody begins to listen to each other and then be on the same page and really hear in active listening the words and the desire that's really there.
So you, as the person in the communication, say it's you and I, and or you and me. It's early. My grammar's not there yet. So I'm the person who has this, what I think is a fantastic idea, and you think it's kind of bleh. But like you said, the intention behind my idea is it's sincere. I want this big thing for the organization. But there's already now, we've created this tension in the board session. How do we back off of that? How do you, like you talked about, not only hearing the words, but the emotion, but how do you recognize that? So hopefully the group can, like you said, reach a different level of understanding and calm so that their nervous systems aren't all jacked up and they can have this meaningful conversation.
It's so simple because really everybody in the room probably does want the same thing. They're all on the board serving with the same intention. And that is to make sure that everybody is uplifted. Everybody is following the same idea and mission of the organization. And so it's just as simple as taking a step back and saying, isn't it amazing that we all want the same thing? Isn't it good that we all bring different ideas to the table? Isn't it awesome that we can hear what Jack, for example, Jack has to say, but we can also listen to what Sarah has to say, and we can look at all of the ideas and we can look all the way around the problem and decide what's best for the mission and really get back to that core. It'll make a big difference.
What's best for the mission?
Yeah.
Well, that's a powerful statement, right? It helps people get off of a tangent sometimes. Or like, I know for me, I can get wrapped up in a thought and think, no, you have to understand it. And then when you say, but let's get back to the mission, I'm going, oh, not on mission, not on message, right? So, but you're not pointing fingers at anybody and saying, that's Sarah, she's always disrupting.
There's no reason to do that.
No, but I've worked with boards that say, oh, I'm going to tell you ahead of time, this person is going to be challenging everything, right? Going, well, not the best way to set up our first interaction, but okay, I'll go with it. But recognizing, like you said, like we're all here for the same mission, we all want the same thing, how great that is. It's very affirming.
Yeah, and then suddenly it gets the opportunity to create the space for everybody to be heard. So then all ideas, because we all want the same thing, now we can look at all ideas and we're shaking them all around. And something that is a little bit more outside of the box might be considered, because now we're really thinking about something higher and we're not, and we've acknowledged the feeling. The feeling behind is we're all here for this purpose. We all feel this thing about this piece of what we're creating. Is that making sense?
It does make sense. I'm smiling just because I think about, especially when you have groups that are multi-generational, it can be very easy to dismiss people who are way older or way younger than you. And sometimes it's those outlier ideas people have that are like, oh my God, what, we hadn't even thought of that. You know, how great is it? Because we could actually listen and hear what kind of something is and give space for it, hold it, like you were saying. So, you supported people through moments of crises, going, as you say, from chaos to clarity. So when someone is going or through chaos or crises or navigating uncertainty and grief, how does your listening change, if any, in any way in that?
I approach every conversation ahead of time. I practice what I call the core of listening, right? So, and that starts with establishing CALM. The core is an acronym. It stands for calm, outcome, relate, and empathy. So before I'm beginning any conversation with any person, as I did with you today, I am making sure that I am moving into that space with this person with clarity in myself, a piece of calm that I can then hold for me and the other person, so that no matter what happens, we're able to have emotional regulation to be able to use our prefrontal cortex of our brain. Because if we don't, then we're going to get hijacked and we're going to get off topic. And now we're going to have, we're going to have things occur that we don't want to occur. We're not going to be able to hear each other because our brains literally won't let us hear. So we can't, without the prefrontal cortex, we're not able to do the act of listening, which again includes the words and the emotions.
So I want to ask this because therapists that I work with do this, what you're describing. Like they say, oh yeah, right before you came in, I cleared. They use different language, right? But it's like they take care of, excuse me, their own emotional regulation. They get clear on why we're going to be together. And I'm coming in with my own ideas of what that is, right? But what's your process? Because different people have different processes. So how do you get into that space?
So for me, it's taking about 5 minutes ahead. I like to use a lavender oil. I like to get my olfactory senses activated. It just creates I've associated that smell with calm in my brain, and so it's just easier to bring it back. I focus on my breathing for a few minutes, and I think about what it is I want to have happen in the conversation. So for you and I, before I came in, I wanted to make sure that I was showing up as my best self, as I was really able to listen to your questions and give answers that would resonate with your audience. That's what I was thinking about and intending, setting an intention before I came into the meeting. Yeah.
So the reason I asked that is because we forget sometimes, like when we think we're in a casual conversation, I'm thinking in a work setting type of place, we may not be. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, I always talk to so-and-so, but they may bring you something. And if we are not kind of in the space to receive it, our responses might not be the most helpful for that situation. And then you've kind of got a little turmoil maybe, or friction that got set up maybe inadvertently. So I was really curious when you're working with organizations, if in your core process, and I'm going to ask you to talk more about that, do you help people look at ways that they can prepare to have their conversations or enter into a room in a certain way?
I think it's extremely important to have some kind of practice. It doesn't have to be mine. It needs to be something that you do. And if somebody catches you off guard, if in the hallway, for example, and you're aware that you're hungry, angry, lonely, tired, whatever it is that's going on, that's the halt thing. Some of your listeners might recognize that. If that's going on for you, making sure that you say, I hear you really need my attention right now, and this isn't a good time for me. Can we make sure that we circle back in about, can I have 15 minutes so I can make sure that I'm ready to enter into this conversation with you? I'm happy to do that, or whatever it is that you need. But if you're not ready to receive it, the conversation is not going to go the way that you really want it to. And it's much better to postpone it, not deny. We got to make sure we're circling back. And likewise, if a conversation gets started and then starts to go sideways, putting a pause in it, putting a pin in it and say, okay, I can feel myself losing my emotional regulation at this stage. Let's, let me come back. Let me have some time to think. Let me have some time to, get myself back into a place where I really can listen and hear you. It's so very important to do that. And it makes such a difference in communication, because truly communication determines your results.
Absolutely. I love that you said, sometimes people feel like, well, if I put you on hold, then I might offend you. And which the reverse for me is true. When someone says, I can't talk to you right now, Sarah, I'm not present. Can you give me X time? I actually feel I appreciate that, because I know they're taking what I'm asking serious. I don't feel blown off unless the person typically never gets back to you, which you just described as you don't want to do that. Right. So I think you just gave permission to people to say, it's okay. I'm not right there.
Yeah. And we can't be all the time. We're human. We're human beings. It's not possible to at every moment be accessible and available to everyone. Giving yourself permission to know that I don't have to be. And it is important to me as a leader, as a valuable member of this community, to show up when I am in a good space. That's really what you want to do. Yeah. And making sure that then you do that for people. And the respect that comes as a result of that is significant.
But this doesn't only benefit in workspaces, right? I mean, in relationships and home, I think sometimes it can be even more powerful. So do you encourage people or tell me how you see this in personal relationships?
Yeah, I love it so much because everything that I teach in business it can come home with you, and that's so incredibly wonderful. That's so big for me. I'm like, I have about 12 things exploding in my mind. I'm like, oh, I could go here, 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 here. So, let's pick one and dive in. The first thing that came to mind was I worked with a woman named Jennifer. She was doing medical sales in healthcare, and she and I sat down to talk one day, and she complained and complained and complained for about 10-15 minutes about how on every call that she was getting that came in, people were wanting to talk about what was going on in their life and complain about things that were going wrong. And she's like, and I need to meet this quota for my sales. I have to do this. And so I said, if you just will take a few moments and I waited until she was done because she needed to be ready to receive what I said. And so I said, are you open to a suggestion? And she's like, oh, you have a suggestion? There's something I can do? Because she really thought she was trapped. I'm like, no, you're not trapped. Here's what she can do. And so then I presented to her how she could actively listen to the people in those conversations very quickly and shorten that time. So she began to do that. And suddenly her sales increased and people were asking for her extension at the end of the calls. And then at the very next time after I talked to her, she's like, Deb, not only did I figure out that I could do that at work, but I figured out I could do it with my kids at home. This is why this whole example happened, because I could do it at home too. So I loved that for her because she was so wise to be able to see, yes, this matters not only in my interactions with the people I'm working with, but also at home.
And the thing I love about things working in dual locations, especially at home with their kids, is it shows them a pattern. Here's how to ask for what you need while being respectful of others, and it's hard sometimes for kids to know it's okay, but here she is modeling and it's working at home. So that's a great example, Deb. What are some of our communication missteps though? Yeah.
In my course, I call them pitfalls. I have a lot of them. But I would say the top one, the way people miss the most is jumping in to fix things. I think men are often called out for this unfairly as doing it more. In reality, in an example where someone was invited to actively listen in a study, 66% of men did not get it, but 33% of women also didn't. So this isn't just a problem for men, it's also a problem for women. And we tend to think that we need to solve a problem for somebody else. If they're talking to us, we feel like we should give them an answer. Sometimes people don't need an answer. Sometimes the best thing you can do is to let them go, and I don't know what to do, because that's often what they say, and I don't know what to do. And you're like, oh, well, I can see what you should do. But instead of saying that, if you'll just take a moment and pause and say, oh, I hear that's really frustrating for you right now. What is it that you'd like from me in this moment? Did you just need me to hear how hard that is for you? Or did you want to problem solve or something else? And when you say it like that, there's just such relief on the part of the person, because now I've been heard. Now I'm in charge and I get to control what's going to happen next. And you're in a place where you can just receive that and give that. And isn't that so beautiful?
Well, it is. The other thing that you're like, just listening to you say that, the other thing, if you are the person listening, it takes the stress off. You don't know what they need until you ask the question that you asked, right? So you don't have to sit there thinking, okay, this is what they should do in that situation. Oh, over here, this should do this. All you're doing is listening and paying deep attention, and then see and sometimes people say, I think I'm good. I think just saying that, I'm more clear.
Yeah.
Pressure off.
Yeah.
I might have been in that 33% of people though.
I don't think there's any judgment. This is one of the things that I really try to make sure I help people understand. Only 2% of people in our nation have ever been taught to actively listen. We're told from the time when kindergarten, listen, but we're not taught how to do that unless we've gone on to some higher level degree, to some master's level degree. I ask people over and over again, have you ever had any education in active listening? And people are like, oh my God, no, nobody ever really did teach me how to do that. I didn't know that there was a framework that I could apply. I didn't know that there were things I could do to do it better, to know how to do this thing that everybody expects us to show up and do well in our life every single day. Isn't that fabulous?
It's amazing. I wasn't taught any of that until I volunteered. And guess what type of organization taught me to do active listening?
I would guess the church.
Suicide prevention.
Suicide prevention. Okay. Yeah.
It's like you don't need to be talking, you need to be listening.
Yeah.
And boy, and it was all of what you were talking about, like that, okay, what am I hearing? What am I feeling? And then unless someone was like in a moment crisis at that moment, then there was an emergency protocol, but your job was to listen and be present. And boy, does that take some practice for me.
Does.
As someone who talks a lot, like just listen. So you talk about core a bit more. We talked about the C. Let's talk a little bit more about your process.
Yeah. So the next thing you want to do is, if you can, early in the conversation, determine what outcome someone's looking for. So, for example, do they really need to vent? Or, are they looking to problem solve? Like, establish that early on. What is the outcome they're looking for? Do they simply need to be able to verbalize it in their head to hear it for themselves? That might be all that they're looking for from you. And so if you can determine what it is that they want from the get-go, the conversation itself will help them to feel, that's great. Like for us, I determined that the outcome that we were going for from the beginning is that we were going to have a conversation for 35 to 40 minutes, and that your listeners would come away with some practical tips that they could apply immediately in their life today. And so that's what the outcome for us is, right? So, yes. And so establishing that outcome and then making sure that you're taking steps to move towards that as you're having the conversation is really key. So that's the O, the outcome. Relate. This is the biggest part of it's really complex because it includes a lot of different things. Relate includes body language. It includes the practical thing that most people think about when they think about listening is, I should pay attention. I should not have distractions. I should make sure the TV's off, the radio's off, like the phone's put away. Like I'm not responding to other things in my environment. Like there's that. Then there's also the, in relating, you want to make sure that you're asking good questions. Like you have to be able to stay engaged here and ask those questions and finding the right ones to really facilitate that. And then finally, the E is empathy. And that's really the heart of the listening. And sometimes empathy is understanding that you really can't know what it's like for someone else. You really can't know. And that for me was a really big aha moment, and letting that be okay. Like, cause I want to know for you. I want to know what that's like for you. I want to know. I want to feel like I get that. But there are some experiences that you really can't know, and being able to offer that as something too is really, really important.
Well, so when you're in a situation where you can't know, do you act or talk? Well, do you inquire differently, I guess, or do you respond differently? Do you just say, "There's no way I can understand what you're going through at this moment, but I'm here, I'm present in whatever way is." I mean, how do you acknowledge that?
Just like that, you say exactly that. Like for me, that aha moment came when I was talking with a person of color, and I realized I could never know what it's like to be a person of color. I could never know what that is because I'm not that. And so I said that out loud. I'm like, I have a profound knowing right now that what you're saying to me, I will never know in the same way that you know it. And I care about you, and I want to be here for you, but I also understand that I can't really understand. And she almost started crying because it was so powerful for her. Because she needed to know that I cared, but that I also accepted that I couldn't know. Does that make sense?
It
It was
makes
like
perfect sense.
really powerful for her. Yeah.
Well, and it's sometimes what bonds us, in a way.
Mhm.
It's like you can know some things, but not all things.
Yeah.
And just to have that acknowledgement of someone saying, I have no idea what this is like for you.
Yeah.
I can't know.
I
That's
can't
never
know.
happened to me, or I'm not in that situation. But you can also, with your empathy, get a clue from talking to that person, like how they're feeling, and be present with that. Which brings me to a question for you. Um, the line between being empathetic and taking on someone else's grief and trauma, um, or like moving into a rescue role with someone.
Yeah.
And I can see that. I mean, I've seen that happen in work situations. Oh, let me just fix that for you. When all they were asking is, could you show me what key to push here, right? To at home in certain situations. So, can you fix us?
So that's the absorption pitfall that I talk about in my course. When you start to take on the feelings or emotions of somebody else and then get waterlogged yourself and lose the ability to hold space, that's a huge mistake many people make simply because they're not prepared. And that's why, going back to that calm, that's why that's so very important. Somebody's presenting with you, pushing a key on the keyboard, that's one thing. That's the fixing thing. We're going to step in, we're going to fix it for them. But the absorption, that's the taking on the feelings or this happened a lot in my experience, and part of the reason I developed my business all around listening was because I was in a situation where I was a caregiver to my husband for 8 years, and my family and friends, they wanted to help me so very much. They really did. But when I started to talk about how overwhelmed and difficult things were, they didn't know how to hold space, to hold on to themselves in the midst of my turmoil. And it's something that's really, really key. They hadn't been trained. So I understood why they couldn't do it. I still needed somebody to do it, which meant I needed to find someone outside of, my circle to do that for me, because it was a lot. And I think because I did that, it made me incredibly strong for others. But it's
How did
possible
you
to learn the
communicate
skill.
that? Yeah, how did you communicate that with your family? My brusque is like, I know you love me, but honestly, I got to have someone with more skill. That's a little, but it's hard. People feel frustrated. It's like when one of your good friends is going through something and then they kind of start backing away because it's too much. And
Yeah.
so, how did you maintain relationships with your family as you were going through all of this?
I did, but I stopped looking to them for the thing that I really needed. I stopped expecting it. You can't get from somebody what they don't know. And so if they don't know it, find somebody who does know it. Yeah. So I think for me, yes, my relationships are still there. Did they deepen in the way that I might have hoped for? No, they didn't. And that's okay. That's
Yep.
okay. My family and my friends, they are who they are. And I understood why their responses were what they were. And I have compassion and love for them in their being. And I hope for their journey that as I've created my business and talked about this ad infinitum on all kinds of social media, that maybe they've picked up and learned some things from that. Oh, I understand that maybe I missed right there for Deb. Oops, that's okay. I don't no hard feelings at all. No, just love. Just only ever just love.
It's not always easy to be who we wished we could be during a time for someone else, and you're coming back with compassion and acceptance. It's the healing piece.
Yeah.
If they choose to pick it up, so that's why I asked that, because I think a lot of people go through that, where they're in what I not necessarily over their heads, but it's a situation they never envisioned themselves to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Okay, so this is more tactical, but so I'm imagining an organizational leader or team listening to you going, okay, where the heck do we start this process? Um, where do we begin to become better listeners? So the easy thing for me is to say to connect with you. But if they're not sure where to begin, how would you point them?
So obviously I feel like sitting down and having the experience where everybody gets the same information all at the same time is a great way. Like, let's talk about what is active listening on your team. Let's give everybody this knowledge and show them how to use it, so that now we all have the same experience and the same language. Every time we come into the next conversation with each other, everybody's on board and knows, oh, okay, this is how we're going to interact with each other. And so now we're using this active listening to build our relationships, to build everything, to move forward.
And that would be a very simple thing to set up because it could be done online with you.
Yes, easy.
Just saying. It's like,
Yeah.
well, it's a way people go, oh, that felt safe. I learned something. I have something to practice, and then it's a way to benchmark where are we right now as an organization and where might we want to grow and be stronger in our communication and listening skills in particular. Cool. Okay. You shared something in our preparation stages, saying that you have a party trick, a very special party trick. So I want to know about your party trick.
So many of your listeners may be familiar with the Myers-Briggs inventory. And so my party trick is I'm really good at being with somebody for 5 to 10 minutes and being able to identify very quickly what the type is. And most people are like, how'd you just do that? But I used it when I was starting out. My background in training is actually as a United Methodist pastor. That was my background. And so I started to use it in ministry as a tool to be sure that I was interacting with people in my congregation in a positive way. And so I started to make it a game to play with myself to figure out, oh, how quickly can I figure out somebody new would come into the door? How quickly can I figure out what type they are? And to make sure that I'm meeting their needs. Like, if they're extroverted, they're going to need more from me than if they're introverted. It's a different kind of thing. And so I just began to play with it. And so yeah, now I can very quickly identify and pick up on what people are.
That would freak me out a little bit, but it really doesn't, because I'm listening to you. I'm thinking, and you mentioned, you were close.
I was.
You were exactly right. I'm on the line. On one, like, depending on what's going on, I'll either go between perceiving and judging, right? But the rest of it is so far into the zone. It's like, no, you are introvert. You're not even close to any line on that. So anyway, it cracked me up when you wrote that, but I see how you would want to know that to help be more present for people as they're coming into your congregation.
Yeah.
So I think what I want to ask you is a couple last questions. And one is, how do you personally define success?
I think success for me is walking away from an experience and feeling positive about it. That's what success is for me.
Okay. And this is a question that one of my clients is currently asking. It's, an existential kind of question. But when do you know it's enough? What is enough?
When you feel satisfied.
Very cool. I'm on a mission to find different answers from people. I'm asking because I like to know, like, your definition of success, super great, right? You can reach that.
I think that I spent a lot of time thinking about enough, especially when I was parenting. I was very aware that there could be a bit of I was talking to my best friend last night about this pendulum that swings, right? Like overcorrecting, like we knew how we were parented, decided we didn't want to do it that way, so that we swing the other way too far. But wanting to make sure that I found the middle of it, the soft swing of the pendulum, and not like something that's out of control, like a Notre Dame bell. I want to make sure I'm just like soft in that spot. Sometimes it can be. I agree with the person asking the question, because I know so very well that can be hard to know. Like, what is that? when you're not sure, you know what this is and you know what this is, but where is that? So I really understand and appreciate that question.
I do too. It sounds so simple, but you think about it. I mean, it made me think about what is enough, what isn't, and it varies in stages of life, right? So what's enough in profession or at home or in an effort? So I thought it was very. She says, "Can we talk about this at the retreat?" And I'm thinking, of course we can talk about it. Your group can talk about it. I'll frame stuff for conversations around it. But I thought that's such a great question. And then it got me thinking about it. So I thought I'd have other people think with us. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay. 2 last things. Where is the best place for people to reach out to you?
So my website's a great place to start to learn more, hearingoutLifeDrama.com. When you land on the homepage, you're invited to decide if you're here to look about business solutions or personal solutions. They're both. And so you decide on your journey and go explore. That's a great way if people are wanting to connect with me on social media. I talk about the personal side of things on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and YouTube, and for business, I'm on LinkedIn primarily, and I talk about business stuff on LinkedIn.
Okay, and my last question is, I like to ask my guests to leave our listeners and me with some words of wisdom. So it's you.
So I can't come up with anything better than what my Aunt Beth said to me when I was 15. And she said, "Deb, if you can't do something out of love, don't do it." I just felt like that was so profound, and that has stayed with me my whole entire life. I feel like it's the best advice for anybody, for their life, for their business. Like, if you can't approach it and take an action out of that place of love, no, don't do it, because it's not in alignment, right? It's just love is the ultimate alignment.
Okay, listeners, there's nothing to say on top of that. My request of you is to share this podcast with someone that you know would benefit from Deb's words today. I've taken away a couple of gems, not the least of which is her parting word of wisdom. And then please give us a rating and review, because that really helps get the word out. And Deb, I will take my appreciation for you into the weekend, and I hope you also have a good weekend.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
You've been listening to Nonprofits Today with best-selling author, change agent, and strategic nonprofit coach, Sarah Box. You can grab the show notes and find out how to work with Sarah and the Sandbox team at sarahbox.com. We'd love this podcast to reach as many people as possible, so be sure to rate, review, and share this podcast with someone you think would get value from this conversation. And be sure to tune in and power up with future episodes of Nonprofits Today.